Aaron Brok, on the other hand, you know, had that very high placement on Worlds, as you alluded to, but hasn't gone farther than top 8 in a regional. So this is definitely his best placement in regionals. And yeah, I guess everyone has their different, you know, ideas of, you know, like X placement at regionals compared to Y placement at Worlds. But this is definitely, you know, undoubtedly his best finish from a regional perspective, and just trying to make that further. And we can see the team that he's been using that we've seen on stream a few times already: Raging Bolt, Qianpao, Calyrex Shadow Rider, Tinglu, Amoonguss, and Zamazenta. A lot of these picks feel a bit more standard, but we have a little bit of tune-ups, you know, like the Taunt on the Qianpao, the Terra Normal on the Calyrex. Typically, they run Terra Ghost to have a bit more offensive options. You already have the Focus Sash, but this is clearly to make the matchup better into Calyrex Shadow Rider, which he is facing into, so it could be relevant. And of course, this Ting Lu, which, you know, feels, I'm not sure if it's going to be the star of the show of this one. It definitely gives him options, but it's really cool to see nonetheless.
Yeah, Ting Lu, I think, is not the easiest Pokemon to use, but was actually very instrumental for Aaron's victory in the previous round. It's not a Pokemon that feels like it does a ton of damage. Like, Runation feels incredible when you're taking something from 100 to 50%, but then otherwise, you know, you've got Snarl, which is valuable to disrupt your opponent, isn't going to do the most amount of damage, but obviously very good into opposing Calyrex Shadow Riders. And hey, you know what's on the opposing side? There is actually a Calyrex Shadow Rider. There's also a Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu is a Pokemon that actually is really annoying for Calyrex Shadow Rider and Zamazenta as a duo, and so Ting Lu obviously as a Pokemon gives you options into those as well. But basically, when I talk about Ting Lu, I'm like, it can feel really good, but it also often is not getting those one-hit knockouts, obviously, that you might be used to. And Zhe here using a really cool team, of course. We've seen Weezing a bunch on stream already. Really valuable when paired with that Crydon, and you've got a lot of Pokemon that love the Sun here on his team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every Pokemon on this team, except for the Calyrex and the Weezing, but, you know, 4 out of the 6 just really love being in that Sun. And yeah, I'm curious to see if the Weezing is what's going to come here, because we've seen in some past games where the Weezing just really doesn't do anything into the Zamazenta. You know, the Play Rough doesn't do any damage. Poison Gas, immune for the Zamazenta. Taunt, I guess you can prevent with the Wide Guard, but that's really about it. And yeah, both the restricted Pokemon on Aaron's end, you know, don't really feel like it's instrumental for them to have their abilities, right? Like Calyrex Shadow Rider, completely immune. The Zamazenta doesn't get the defense boost, but if you just get the defense boost once, then, you know, Weezing can come in and it doesn't really matter. So I think the only Pokemon that you really want it for is the Amoonguss, and the Amoonguss you can kind of take care of with the Fire-type Pokemon. So it feels to me like Jay really wants to lead into that Sun mode. Yeah. And I'm curious to see what the game plan is going to be on his end.
Yeah, one of the interesting things is if you set up that Sun and the Raging Bolt comes out from the opposing side, you do give it a Photosynthesis boost, and this is a lot of multipliers. Photosynthesis plus Magnet plus Electric Terra suddenly makes these Electric-type attacks that much scarier. So let's see. The leads are going to come out from Zhe's end. It is going to be the Crydon and the Brute Bonnet. Sun activated, and Raging Bolt hits the field as well, and so we're going to see a bunch of Photosynthesis boosts to start this game.
Yeah, so just as you alluded to, we see Aaron free ride onto the Sun with the Photosynthesis boost on the Raging Bolt, making it even more of a powerhouse than it already is. And yeah, it's kind of an interesting turn where it seems like both players can get a lot of leverage if they make the reads correct. You know, you can get a Spore off onto either Pokemon on Aaron's end, and for Jay, he has to really worry about a double up into the Brute Bonnet slot. So it doesn't seem like either player has like a super safe play to make, but definitely Aaron can go for a protect to scout, double protect to scout out any Terra Hospitalizations that might come out on Jay's end. Yeah,
I think getting a Terra out is actually a big deal here, right? Like Brute Bonnet, of course, is going to be weak to that fighting type damage from Zamazenta, and then the Crydon obviously has to worry a little bit about the super effective hits from the Raging Bolt, Dragon Pulse specifically, and so one of the things I was curious about is like you got this defense boost on the Brute Bonnet, right? So if Brute Bonnet went like Fire Terra, can it survive a Dragon Pulse plus a Body Press combination? No Terras to start turn 1 though. It's just going to be both Pokemon from Aaron's end protecting, and so Aaron maybe hoping to bait it out a Terra like you said on turn 1. It's not going to be the Terra. It's actually going to be the Sucker Punch play, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was, you know, Sucker Punch Collision Course trying to just snipe off the Raging Bolt immediately. Now Raging Bolt has protected, so it is vulnerable to the same play the subsequent turn.
I'm a little bit curious if that, even if that had succeeded for Jay's end, if that would have been enough.
Knockout, right?
We've seen, like, you know, Life Orb, Close Combat get really close to Raging Bolt, and Sucker Punch isn't that strong, right? So it's just, like, you know, shave off the top, so to speak, of the Raging Bolt. So with Collision Course, no Life Orb, it's definitely a lot less strong than the Close Combat Life Orb. So if he goes for that again, and
you don't get the knockout,
it's going to be in trouble. So
yeah,
I wonder if Jay will realize that, but yeah, might be forced to Terra now with that Brute Bonnet if it doesn't want to, be taken down by the body press and the Dragon Pulse combination.
Yeah, exactly. And, the Zamazenta here, kind of just a safe terror. You're not really facing too much damage from the opposing side, and you never really want to get hit by a collision course, of course, by the Zamazenta if you haven't terra'd. And so I think this is really safe. Aaron, turn one, maybe would have liked to see a Terra come out, but he's like, okay, that's the play you're going to commit to. I have the same question as you, Yuki. Okay, it's not even a Sucker Punch or a Rage Powder, so Collision Course comes out, but is Brute Bonnet going to be, and yeah, you can see that's definitely not going to be enough. And so Body Press comes out into the Bonnet. I think Dragon Pulse really should get the knockout here, and if it does, I think Aaron's honestly off to a really strong start in this game.
And we see the Dragon Pulse pick up the knockout, as you talked about, so able to evade any spores for the rest of the game on Aaron's end. And yeah, going for that Terrassalization on water, which is not that easy to punish from Jay's end, just not having any kind of coverage from an electric or grass type perspective, except for that Brute Bonnet that just fainted. And yeah, I guess it makes sense to me that the Collision Course went into the Raging Bolt, wanting to become like fodder for this Calyrex to go with the Grim Nade boost through either a Psychic or through an Astral Barrage. So yeah, we'll see if they're able to capitalize off of that. It's still going to be a bit of a mind game with the wide guard, and you could get a bit more leverage with Astro Barrage. And the advantage, though, is that Jay has 2 faster Pokemon, so now it's on Aaron's end to react, where it didn't feel like that earlier on.
Yeah, this is one of the scary things about setting up that Sundo. Like, now you've got Thunderclap with Photosynthesis and Magnet. Like, that actually does a really reasonable amount of damage to the Calyrex Shadow Rider, and I think this is the scary thing about bringing Calyrex Shadow Rider out against Zamazenta, right? It's like, well, if Wide Guard comes out, I can just get completely wasted for a turn if I click that Astro Barrage, right? And then so your other option, of course, on this Calyrex Shadow Rider is going to be Psychic. It's pretty powerful, but, not the strongest, but Thunderclap is going to come out. Look how much that does to the Calyrex, and it is Astro Barrage! Threat of Wide Guard. He does not care. That's going to come out. That's going to get a knockout onto Raging Bolt. This could, of course, swing a lot of momentum into Jay's favor. Crydon can, of course, go for that Collision Course as well, but it is a +1 defense on the Zamazenta. Not super effective. I would expect it to survive, and it definitely does.
Yeah, we can tell your experience coming well into here with the Body Press, finishing off the turn, going into the Crydon. So now Crydon definitely in range of the Astral Barrage, and compared to the other Calyrex Shadow Rise we've seen, typically this one has Spooky Plate on Jay's end, so definitely going to be knocked out by an attack from the Calyrex on Aaron's end. And yeah, I guess since Jay has not committed any Terrassalization, they have the defensive option of going for that Dark Terrassalization. But yeah, I guess it feels like the tide keeps swinging back and forth.
Totally, yeah. And we see the 2 Pokemon and Aaron's deciding to bring between right now. And it's not the most obvious, right? Like you pointed out earlier, Yuki, you've got the speed advantage if you're Jen, so that's kind of scary. Chien-Pao, of course, can get outsped. And so it's going to actually be the Calyrex committed to here. But like you said, there is that Dark Terror on the opposing side, right? Dark Terror obviously allows you to potentially survive that Astral Barrage. So right now, we are already dealing with potential speed ties, of course, between the Calyrexes. And then Jet still has the ability to go for a Terra. There's always the threat of Wide Guard, of course, from Aaron's end as well. You have to be a little bit careful about something like a Flame Charge coming out from the Crydon, getting a speed boost, because then the Calyrex will definitely get outpaced the subsequent turn. Calyrex, of course, on Aaron's end has the ability to just maybe launch a Psychic into the opposing Crydon, for example. But yeah, this is definitely kind of awkward right now.
Yeah, I think it all depends on whether the Crydon's in range of an Astral Barrage or not, because then we know that the Calyrex is going to be faster than the Crydon, and you don't even have to worry about that Flame Charge. And the only defensive play they could make is Dark Pulse, but also they can switch.
Who's coming in?
What is coming in?
Did you imagine a Chi-Yu? Oh, okay, it's Walking Wake.
So that's an interesting switch to me, since, it has the Assault Vest item, so able to take the special attacks from this Calyrex much better, but it's not a resisted hit. So I guess Jay probably knows how they train their Pokemon the best. They probably know that they can survive 2 hits, and that's probably what they want to be banking on. But at the same time, if they are able to outspeed with that speed booster in the sun, then they can retaliate pretty well. So, all right, we see the Wide Guard come out from the Zamazenta, definitely not wanting to allow the Focus Sash to be broken and to lose the Zamazenta from Astral Barrage. But reading through that from Jay's end, the Psychic going to Zamazenta, getting that knockout and getting that Grim Nade boost. But I'm almost wondering, is this going to be a huge Astral Barrage coming out from Aaron's end?
Yeah, as the Dark Calyrex, of course, really good defensively, gets that special attack boost. It is going to be that Psychic, and so Walking Wake, a nice switch in here. Actually, still takes a lot of damage. I'm like, okay, Walking Wake, it's got the Assault Vest. It, should be able to take special attacks fairly well. Even with the Assault Vest, it does take a lot. Chien-Pao's going to be the final lock in here. And so this is interesting because from Zhe's end, like Chi-Yu actually would have been incredible there.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was thinking. They switching in. I was like,
yeah,
is it Chi-Yu coming in?
Yeah. But the reason you may not feel the most confident with Chi-Yu in this matchup is because you are up against Water, Terra, Zamazenta, and you know there's the threat of Ting Lu from Aaron's end. And so this is actually something both players are probably already thinking about in their head, which is, wow, okay, like Chi-Yu could be an adjustment for me. But right now, of course, the game is still going on. You've got Chien-Pao applying pressure right now. I'm curious. I mean, Life Orb Sucker Punch, it's pretty strong. I don't know if it's enough to get a knockout onto either here, though.
It is a pretty strong move. You do have Sword of Ruin. Oh, we see the Aqua Jet, which is one way to get through the Sucker Punch. So Sucker Punch fails from Aaron's end. Which Calyrex is going to go first?
Who moves first? Aaron's does move first. Okay, but is it going to deal enough to knock out either Pokemon here? No! It's not going to! Calyrex gets to respond now with a Astral Barrage of its own with that Aqua Jet. Such a nice way to get around that Sucker Punch. Wow. Imagine if Chien-Pao went for Sucker Punch onto the Calyrex slot instead. That would have completely turned the tides, but this turned so critical. Sucker Punch just outwardly fails. Aaron hoping for the Walking Wake to go for a more offensive attack, like did not have priority, like that Hydro Steam, that Draco Meteor, or that Snarl, but that turn wins Jed the game.
It's incredible. I almost wonder if Aaron like noticed that Aqua Jet was on that Walking Wave, because I think we keep talking like even on the casters, and you know when we can see these teams and we've seen it all day, it's like we still forget like, oh, this thing that looks like Suicune actually has a priority move. Like we've never seen Suicune have any priority moves. So totally catching Aaron off guard potentially, and yeah, winning that like potential 50-50 even if Aaron knew about it. So yeah, like especially after seeing that, like maybe it didn't have to be Chi-Yu. Like the priority move to get that Sash over and to evade the Sucker Punch was all Jay needed.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, Aaron had a huge advantage early on, it felt like, because you were able to, like, eliminate the Brute Bonnet. Yeah. But then I think the Calyrex eating up so much damage then felt, like, a little bit scary for Jin. So, like, yeah, it felt like he had, like, decent control, but then it all kind of just went away when the Calyrex was able to just, like, Psychic, you know, like, Zamazenta kind of forced the wide guard there. Yeah. Psychic gets the knockout, and suddenly, you know, Aaron's actually not in the best of positions. And, yeah, I think, like, this Dark Terror is so pivotal in Calyrex Shadow Rider, because otherwise it's threatened by so many one-hit knockouts, whether it be Sucker Punch from Chien-Pao or the Astral Barrage from Calyrex Shadow Rider. But, yeah, I think being able to bait out the Terror early, and then Jet conserves the Ghost, Dark Terror, I should say, and then that one turn, I mean, man, if it was just Sucker Punch into the Calyrex Shadow Rider slot instead, how different would that game have looked?
Yeah, and it felt interesting how the back and forth there was, where both players felt like they were trying to set up their own Calyrex Shadow Rider for success.
Exactly.
Like, on Aaron's end, you had the Raging Bolt that was at, you know, maybe 40% health or something, and then the Zamazenta was chipped, you know, two Pokemon that are very susceptible to being KO'd by the opposing Calyrex, and then maybe a turn later, it felt like the opposite, where Jay just had this Koraidon that was just below half health, ready to get knocked out by a Psychic or an Astral Barrage. So it feels like Aaron has that advantage in terms of not letting Jake get their way entirely with the Calyrex thanks to the wide guard access, whereas Aaron doesn't have to worry about that, right? He can just collect Astral Barrage if he wants to. So it's really impressive to me that Jay clawed that back thanks to that Aqua Jet getting through that pin that Chien-Pao was imposing.
Yeah, and it's just such a unique interaction, right? It's also, you get that speed boost from that photosynthesis, and so being able to move to deny the priority is such a big deal, right? If the sun isn't up there, then the Sucker Punch guaranteed goes off unless you switch out that Walking Wake. And so, you know, one of the questions always as you lose a game, if you're from Aaron's perspective, is, do I really feel the need to change the Pokemon? The Pokemon actually felt pretty good there. Like, I think Amoonguss obviously feels really clunky to bring here. It does have that Water Terra, so, like, that's a possibility, but it just doesn't feel great because you give up a lot of offense for it. Ting Lu, actually on paper, you would think looks pretty good here, and I think that's a potential mix-up, but, you know, would it have solved the problem from that previous game is, you know, the question. And
that's right.
It's bringable, it's just hard, right? Because you're staring down so much aggressive offense.
Right, and I think Aaron's big goal should be to see if they can get Terra out on Jay's end, because as soon as the Terra is gone, then the Calyrex Shadow Rider cannot Terra into Dark, and then your Calyrex Shadow Rider can go through much better. But we see the leads come out from Jay's end. It's going to be the Koraidon and Brute Bonnet versus the Raging Bolt and the Zamazenta, so I believe these are the exact same leads as Game 1.
And I think that's a really good call, Yuki, because I think if, you know, when we were looking at the beginning of Game 1, I was like, well, for Bonnet going for Terra here, going for a Spore probably makes some sense. But when you are running no Focus Sash on Calyrex Shadow Rider, and your opponent has Focus Sash, and you're facing down Wide Guard.
Huge liability.
Exactly, yeah. It feels like you actually almost need to conserve that Dark Terra. So that's a really, really good call out. And I think Jay, feeling maybe confident, saying, you know what, I'm happy to just go with the same lead once again. I think from Aaron's perspective, like if you don't Terror Zamazenta, it can just get one-shot by the collision course. That feels really bad. So once again, just going for what is a relatively safe Terra here to start the game.
Yep, so we see the Terastallization come out over from Aaron's end. The very hard to punish Terra Water, so makes a lot of sense to us. And let's see if Jay ends up going for that Terastallization. It seems like Aaron feels more comfortable going for that double into the Brute Bonnet because they know that, yeah, Jay just can't afford to use a Terra early on. Yeah. So Collision Course coming into the Raging Bull just like game one, doing a bit over half. Body Press going into the Brute Bonnet, doing a little bit more damage than game one. And yeah, if we see this Dragon Pulse come out, then it's a pretty similar scenario as game one.
Yep, and so Brute Bonnet now traded. Of course, there was the ability to maybe Dragon Pulse into the Koraidon slot there, get a knockout. Yeah, but then it's like something gets put to sleep, and yeah, maybe that puts you in an awkward spot, right? But so, pretty similar position. And, last time I was like, I felt like Aaron actually may have had like the slight advantage coming out of this turn one, right? Like, Thunderclap did so much damage into the Shadow Rider as well, but a big part of this is just the speed interaction. I'm also really curious if Jay considered bringing Chi-Yu over Walking Lake this time as the fourth, because that can switch into Psychic, obviously can take Astro Barrage. True. And Aaron already showed that he wasn't willing to bring Ting Lu into game one, and it's like, hey, if you eliminate Raging Bolt, like Chi-Yu could be really scary to deal with. But Zamazenta obviously can body press into Chi-Yu. That's something else to think about. And so, yeah, I mean, the scary thing here is, like, Calyrex could theoretically, like, protect, for example, in front of a Thunderclap, and then do Collision Course, just knock out the Raging Bolt. Now you've got full HP Calyrex coming out of it. That could be a little bit scarier as well. And so we'll see what both players want to opt into right now.
Yeah, and it's also worth to know that Jay also has access to Encore, which is another way to get through Thunderclap. Yeah. So they have multiple tools to gain through the Thunderclap, and it's quite obvious that that's what Aaron wants to go for, to put them more into Astral Barrage range. So we'll see if they go for it, but Thunderclap does come out, does similar damage as game one. So probably Terra Dark.
No Wide Guard once again.
Wow, so getting that pickup on Raging Bull, and yeah, wow, this really feels like a replay of game one where the exact same thing happens. Likely another Collision Course coming out from the Koraidon. Oh, it's a Flame Charge. Okay, so knowing that, okay, I'm not going to be able to KO the Zamazenta. Yep. I don't know if it matters for me to get that extra kind of damage, so I'm just going to make sure I can outspeed your Calyrex or your Chien-Pao.
Oh, we are trading so aggressively in this game, Yuki. Every turn, it's like 50% onto something, 50% onto something. A Pokemon faints, and so you can see Aaron's final two Pokemon. It is going to be Calyrex and Chien-Pao once again in the back, so my head is spinning, and I'm wondering, I wonder if there's a Chi-Yu waiting in the back here. If it is Chi-Yu, you're able to knock out the Zamazenta. Well, this is no fighting type attack on the Chien-Pao, right? It's Ice Spin or Sucker Punch Taunt. Calyrex is Astro Barrage Psychic. Like, Chi-Yu would really, really love being in that position. But either way, a little bit of a mix-up. Flame Charge was something we were talking about at the end of game one, right? So you do get that speed boost, meaning that you will outpace the Calyrex, and that's scary because, of course, it means that you can just launch a Flare Blitz into that spot, bring it down to Focus Sash immediately. And then if you win the speed tie, if you're on Zhe's end, you're just in fantastic shape, right? So now the question I have is, does Aaron want to consider maybe protecting the Calyrex and hoping that, like, it's a double up into the Calyrex and you get a knockout with Behemoth Dash or Body Press? Alternatively, you could protect your Zamazenta, try to get an Astro Barrage off with your Calyrex. I think the Dark Terra conserved still probably makes a little bit sense to launch in this position.
Yes, and I love the adaptation from Jay. Like, you always think, like, oh, if I'm the player that lost, I need to be the one adapting. But no, Jay went one step ahead with that Flame Charge, making sure that now there's so much more pressure on Aaron, right? Like, you're no longer pinned to, like, lose out to that Astro Barrage that's coming out on Aaron's head. You get to launch one attack first, which is so valuable. You might be able to get a knockout on Zamazenta, probably not, but you're going to be able to get that sash off of of Aaron's Calyrex Shadow Rider, and that could put it into range of the Aqua Jet in the back. We see the Protect come out.
Whoa, is it a double up into the slide? Does he call it? Okay, it's going to be Shadow Rider just protecting. The Koraidon is going to be launching an attack. It's going to be Flame Charge into the Protect. Aaron baits out the attack. Of course, Zamazenta was left exposed there. Body Press comes out, and yeah, you got the speed boost, but you didn't get to do anything with it.
So Aaron's still not out of the woods yet, right? Yeah. Like, he does have the Sash attack, he does still have Zamazenta, but he is facing down 1.5 Pokemon that is faster than all of his Pokemon. So
oh, it is Walking Wake still.
Really does depend on which Calyrex can move first, right? Like, if Aaron's able to move first, it's still maybe not that big of a deal since, yeah, like with the Terra Dark access on Jay's end, probably able to survive the Astral Barrage. However, if Jay wins the speed tie, then Calyrex, who had just protected, is very vulnerable and will likely faint to 2 attacks coming out from both the Walking Wake and the Calyrex Strider on Jay's end.
It's fascinating because the format has gotten to a point where everyone's just kind of back to using like max speed Calyrex Shadow Rider. So speed ties really make a big difference right now. So a wide guard here, obviously going to be a nice move to get around the potential Astral Barrage, but you could go Dark Terra, Psychic, like Hydro Steam / Draco Meteor, double up into the Calyrex here on Aaron's end. And so it's going to be Dark Terra. I think this is always the Terra that you kind of have to go for, right? Otherwise, you get just absolutely demolished by an Astral Barrage. Yeah, there was actually the ability, I guess, to like Water Terra Walking Wake to increase your damage output, but Zamazenta goes for Wide Guard. So question number 1, does Calyrex Shadow Rider on the opposing side go for Astral Barrage?
Versus Hydro Stream coming out from Jay's end.
Ooh, that's actually not a lot of damage, honestly.
So,
and it is Astral, the Wide Guard works out here, and it's generally pretty safe, especially seeing how much Hydro Steam did. I was thinking if you're on Jez end, you go for the 50-50 speed tie, Water Terra, Hydro Stream, Psychic. Instead, it's Astral Barrage coming out now from Aaron's end. It's going to be able to dish out a lot of damage, but not a knockout onto either. This is still quite tense.
Right. The problem is that because the Hydro Steam did not do enough damage and that it was not a Psychic that went into the Calyrex, it's definitely out of range of an Aqua Jet. So yeah, I guess they don't have to go for Aqua Jet because the sun is still up. But yeah, it makes me wonder. Yeah, I guess it would be in range of another Hydro Steam. But we have a Chien-Pao still in the back.
Yeah, we're seeing the Protect here. I mean, Aaron right now definitely wants to stall out the Sun, get that Chien-Pao out in the late game so it can outpace both. But it is Hydro Steam into the Protect. That being said, Calyrex can pretty safely go for Psychic here onto the Zamazenta, which it is. Should really get the knockout here onto Zamazenta, as it will. Now we are down to the end game.
And based on the Sucker Punch, oh, that's right, the Sucker Punch didn't even go into the Walking Wake in game 1
because of the Aqua Jet,
So now it's another mind game. It's so...
But the sun is faded, now there is no more speed booster on that Walking Wake, so Chien-Pao will be able to come out. You are going to be slower with Walking Wake now.
So Jay's Calyrex is a little bit stronger than the Calyrex on Aaron's end, has a Spooky Plate, does have the +1 from the Grim Nay boost, but probably not going to be able to knock out the Chien-Pao, right? So I think Aaron, pretty safe to ignore the Calyrex for now. Make sure that they can just get that KO with the Ice Spinner onto the Walking Wake. That seems kind of safe to me. Is there a way that Jay can get out of this?
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, you know, Aaron has to find that play first. Well, yeah, you can see he's going for, Sucker Punch here. Okay. Sucker Punch, Astral Barrage. I think it's probably still okay for him here. First of all, does it get the knockout? It does. Okay, just eliminates it there immediately. Walking Wake actually not really the bulkiest of Pokemon there. So will faint, and yeah, this Calyrex Shadow Rider really doesn't have enough. Gets an Encore off, but will that be enough? Probably not when you're staring down this Chien-Pao. The Calyrex now, at least though, is locked into Protect, so you needed to win that speed tie just to kind of stay in it. But you are staring down Chien-Pao now.
So we have seen a lot of Sucker Punch mind games come out recently.
Especially from Aaron in this tournament.
Yes, and I don't know if they have to go for it. Like, I guess Jay can evade it by going for, you know, an Encore, but like if Aaron has trust that the Chien-Pao can, you know, survive the attack coming out from Calyrex on the opposing end, they don't have to go for it. But let's see what they lock into.
Chien-Pao goes for Protect. It's a little bit awkward, right? Because now you get awkward into your Protect.
Wait, how does this work? So there is an Encore that went into the Calyrex. So Calyrex has one more turn of Encore
left.
Chien-Pao can get Encored now, so
you have to Encore the Chien-Pao, you would think, right?
You would have to, right? And the Sucker Punch don't do anything. So now it's just gonna be a matter of
he could just say, you know what? I'm gonna Astral Barrage. Why is Aaron always ending up in these end games with Sucker Punch and Thunderclap, man? This is.
But there's no real point for Jay to go for an Astral Barrage, right? Because it's not going to KO the Chien-Pao.
Okay, goes for Sucker Punch. Now you're going to get Encored into the Sucker Punch. I think it's, okay, because now Encore ends on Calyrex Shadow Rider, so you have to face Sucker Punch plus Astral Barrage. I mean, like, surely Aaron wins this. There's just no way Jay can win this, right?
Is that true? So you got Encored into Protect, so now Jay wants to Astral Barrage.
Yes. Yeah.
Jay wants to Astral Barrage, I guess.
Oh, but if you Astral Barrage, you just faint to a Sucker Punch, right? So I think Aaron's like, you can't Encore, like, and yeah, like, if you Astral Barrage, you obviously faint. So you have to click Encore here. If you lose the speed tie, I then just KO you. Okay, yeah, just like, I'm not even going to try.
Interesting. I think they still had a way through, maybe not.
It seems crazy, right? Because I was like, surely it's over, but like Encore always can add some shenanigans, but it's like, how are you ever able to handle both of the Pokemon at
That's
once?
right, yeah. So it's still hard for me to wrap my head around what happened in that end game there, but it did feel like Aaron like played their way through a little bit better in this game too.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, it feels like just taking traits pretty aggressively in this early game, right? And I think like part of it is Koraidon, it gets a flame charge off, great, you get a speed boost, but then you just attack into Calyrex. Calyrex baits that attack out. If the Calyrex that turn, you know, it protected, if it was a double up into the Zamazenta slot, you eliminate Zamazenta, now, you know, the Calyrex is just free to click Astral Barrage. I think like part of it is this Calyrex Shadow Rider is taking 60% from these Thunderclaps, right? So I don't know if I love Koraidon plus Brute Bonnet as a lead personally. Like, it feels okay, but you're like forced to take this trade, and that trade doesn't actually seem incredible. And part of it is I think this Wake is able to just like pressure with a lot of damage early on. And so Chi-Yu is a Pokemon I keep talking about, but I'm like, I don't know, if you like get into the right endgame, it can be so phenomenal, right? Because it's like if Zamazenta was eliminated, then Chi-Yu into late game Chien-Pao Shadow Rider, I feel like is so good. So that's the Pokemon I have my eye out on as an adjustment in the back. And then I also think maybe you just lead something differently. Like Koraidon, Brute Bonnet doesn't feel like it's been incredible.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I feel like in both games, what made what would have won Jay in potentially both games was having a Pokemon in the back that was A, faster than Calyrex, and B, resist Sucker Punch, and that's Chi-Yu, right? Like, you didn't need to rely on the Sun for the Chi-Yu to be faster. So I was thinking, okay, like an adaptation that you can make in Game 3 is also, you know, go for Double Protect turn 1 to stall out one more turn of Sun, but if Chi-Yu's in the back, then it doesn't even matter. Like, you're always going to be faster. So maybe Jay can just go for the same plan, but just have that mix up on the 4th.
Exactly, yeah. And the way you adjust to that if you're Aaron is you say, you know what, you're finally bringing out Chi-Yu. You haven't showed me it yet, but I think it's time for you to make an adjustment.
Big call out.
So then you bring your Ting Lu to get rid of the Chi-Yu from the opposing side. Ting Lu, a scary Pokemon to bring into this matchup, right? It on paper looks great into Chi-Yu and Shadow Rider. It's going to be very, very weak, though, of course, to that collision course. If you're bringing Ting Lu and Zamazenta, only one of those can tear it. But here is a mix-up. It's going to be the Shadow Rider hitting the field immediately. This means now no Photosynthesis boosts across the board, but the Shadow Rider right now, of course, protected by that Brute Bonnet, having that Rage Powder support.
I guess I'm trying to intuit, like, what is the adaptation from Jay's end to bring the Calyrex here? Because like Calyrex felt like really important in the end game, having the access to that Terra Dark, having these Pokemon that can resist the Ghost type attacks coming out from Aaron's end, but this further signals to me, oh, maybe there is a Chi-Yu in the back, because you need that double layer protection, right? You need to like be able to have something in the front like Brute Bonnet that can take those dark type, the Ghost type attacks, but also in the back. But we see the Astral Barrage come straight out.
Astral Barrage, no Wide Guard, no Terra whatsoever. There's a lot of damage. Body Press comes out, and this time Brute Bonnet, of course, takes even more damage. Rocky Helmet comes out. It's a really aggressive turn 1 once again. There was a part of me that was like, oh, I wonder if Jever like decides I'm going to actually Terra the Brute Bonnet this time just to get a Spore off. He's fine just letting the Brute Bonnet kind of be a sacrificial piece, but with no Wide Guard coming out, able to threaten so much damage with Astral Barrage. And I like it because it's saying, look, if you Wide Guard, I'm going to put you to sleep.
That's true.
You know, you can't cover for the combination of that. So Jet right now, this time has really done a lot of damage immediately start the game. Now, the Sun is set up, so once again, you give that Photosynthesis boost over to the Raging Bolt. So then once again, I have this mind game of like, oh, like, do you ever protect your Calyrex Shadow Rider and just go for Collision Course onto the Raging Bolt this time around? But I do like the adjustment here. I think Shadow Rider able to do a lot more damage to both Pokemon, whereas previously it was like Koraidon does about 50% to Raging Bolt, but then Zamazenta is at full HP still.
Yeah, and like the speed interaction feels completely different for me, especially compared to like game 1 where the Flame Charge didn't go off. Like, it felt like Aaron always had the faster Pokemon, but now we have 2 Pokemon that are faster than both of Aaron's Pokemon, so they're really on the front foot here, and Aaron's forced to react. Finally goes for the Wide Guard.
Wide Guard, no Terras,
going for it.
Okay.
What is the Calyrex going for? Oh, okay. Hiding that Wide Guard, paying off dividends for Aaron.
Is a Collision Course, though, into Raging Bolt.
That's true. If it's going into the Raging Bolt, then it'll be all for nothing. What does the Koraidon go for? Oh, it's going for the Collision Course. Is it going to get that knockout? Is it going to be enough?
Raging Bolt is going to go low, and it does get the knockout. We saw the Dragon Pulse lock into the Koraidon, so it's right even with 1 HP. It's a really positive trade, but the Wide Guard doesn't really get that much, and it's Ting Lu in the back. Okay, there's no Chien-Pao this time around. Calyrex Shadow Rider thinking about coming out. I mean, if you bring Ting Lu out, suddenly you have 2 Pokemon that are weak to the collision course, right? That feels really bad. So Aaron's saying, you know what? I need to save this Ting Lu. I'm going to try to knock out one more of your Pokemon, get this Ting Lu out into the endgame. If you knock out the Koraidon, Ting Lu can be very, very good potentially, of course, into the Calyrex Shadow Rider and the potential Chi-Yu in the back. But like you said, the speeds are still a little bit awkward to deal with right now.
And the difference this time, though, is that the Koraidon is not chipped whatsoever.
Exactly.
So we don't have any kind of Astral Barrage pinning it, even though it is slower than the Calyrex this time. And the synergy between Zamazenta and Calyrex, again, is that any Pokemon that resists these Ghost-type attacks is super effective with the Fighting-type attacks. But Aaron's Zamazenta is just a little bit too low to take advantage of that. Even if the Calyrex is going to Terrasilize on Jay's end with the Dark Terra, Body Crash probably not going to be able to come out, but
it's the Wide Guard Encore lock this turn, though, so Aaron is not going for any damage here. His goal is to lock the Koraidon into that collision course so that it cannot go for any damage onto the Shadow Rider. Here we go. It's going to be Wide Guard coming out. Dark Terror from the opposing Shadow Rider now, but we know Aaron's not going for damage here. Encore now into the Koraidon slot. It's going to be locked, of course, into that collision course. First of all, Shadow Rider does go for the Astral Barrage. Okay. And of course, we know what's coming out from the Koraidon.
Which slot is it
what
coming
side
into?
is it going to target? Oh, this is so huge. It's collision course into the Shadow Rider.
I was going to say, if the Jay had predicted this to come, they could have clicked Collision Course preemptively, target the Zamazenta to guarantee that even if they get Encore, it is going to go into the Zamazenta slot. But clearly they had gone for something like Flame Charge, wanting to proc the Sash on Calyrex, and losing that 50-50 coin flip is paying. They could have gotten the game here for Aaron. Now that we still have the Sash intact on the Calyrex, and yeah, but I guess the Zamazenta is still being threatened by the Collision Course.
Yeah, exactly. And so Aaron's considering another defensive play, which is like Wide Guard Encore again, right? So then I Encore you. But then if you Zamazenta feints the Collision Course, then well, you can't Wide Guard
win the
anymore.
speed tie.
Exactly, yeah. And so just going for Astral Barrage now, it's not going to do the most amount of damage, right? Like you'll get decent damage up, but there's no multipliers here on the Shadow Rider. So Wide Guard coming out. We know what Koraidon has to go for. It's going to be the Astral Barrage once again. So how many Astral Barrages has this Wide Guard blocked? It's already felt like 4 or 5. Protecting Aaron. Feels like he absolutely has to go for this. But now, Astral Barrage comes out from Aaron's, and how much does it do to the Koraidon? Is it over 50%? It's not even, but of course you can Psychic into that slot. Collision Course now comes out and should finish off the Zamazenta. And we know what's in the back for Aaron. It's going to be that Ting Lu.
I guess this is where I really am concerned about Ting Lu's damage output, because Calyrex on Aaron's end does not have anything meaningful really to hit Jay's Calyrex, and I don't think Ting Lu does either. Like, it's just going to have Sand Tomb, and yeah, you can chip at it, but I just don't think you're going to have enough time like that. So
you've got Psychic on Calyrex, right? So it's like it feels like you need to knock out Koraidon, otherwise it's going to Collision Course you. Terra is still available. That's true. That's true. Oh my goodness. Could you imagine a Chi-Yu switching right now?
It'd be perfect, right? I mean, like Ting Lu and doing Sand Tomb super effective damage, what, 30% or something?
Exactly.
Like,
and oh my goodness, like I like the Ting Lu adjustment. It's going to be the normal Terra lock in here as well. And so that makes a lot of sense. But can you imagine Chi-Yu switching in right now? If it's a Chi-Yu, Calyrex's Terra, Chi-Yu can go for fire type damage.
Oh, this is definitely the Chi-Yu.
Chi-Yu! We told you all.
What an excellent adjustment from Jay, just noticing, yeah, like the Walking Wake, they had its cooldown with Aqua Jet, but I need that Dark type. I need something that's faster all the time, and this is perfect for Jay. I just don't see how Aaron can break through Jay here. Even though he has such offensive Pokemon, defensively they're so perfect in this exact situation. As we see the Psychic whiff right into the Chi-Yu, and we see an Astral Barrage come out from Jay's end. Yeah, it's probably not going to do much damage onto the Ting Lu, but I mean, what is the Ting Lu going to do in return?
Yeah, Ting Lu here going to be able to get the Sand Tomb off into the Chi-Yu. So it actually does fairly reasonable damage here. And of course now, let's see, actually, because I'm wondering now you can like protect your Calyrex, go for another Sand Tomb into the Chi-Yu, right? Like Ting Lu was the adjustment meant for Chi-Yu. Right. Was a big, like, I really like that double up there, right? You know, it's like, okay, I either knock out your Koraidon and then Sand Tomb goes off into your Calyrex, or if you switch out, it's guaranteed damage into whatever is coming in. And so from Jez, it actually may have been better if he like sacrificed the Koraidon, gets the free switch in, right? Into the Chi-Yu, and then Chi-Yu can like launch his attacks. But now it's awkward because you can just go for the protect and knock out the Chi-Yu. So will Chi-Yu be the missing piece for Aaron, or for Aaron to deal with here? Okay, it's going to be protect from Calyrex Shadow Rider. Ting Lu holding up so well here. It's going to be Heat Wave boosted by the sun, but of course, you've also got the ability from Ting Lu. Heat Wave does not do a lot of damage there.
Oh, we see the Encore come out from Calyrex into the Calyrex on Aaron's end, so still gonna have to worry about that for the next turn.
Oh my goodness, Santum misses!
That's a huge miss. That likely would have been a KO based on the residual damage we've been seeing, plus the initial damage. So now there's one more turn that this Calyrex has to fend off from this Chi-Yu. And especially if the Encore comes out from Jay's end first, this might be locked.
Exactly, yeah. I was going to say, even if Chi-Yu fainted there, Koraidon comes in, you have Collision Course plus Encores. If you win the 50-50 speed tie, Encore into Calyrex, you're locked into Protect, Collision Course, Ting Lu KO'd. And so that was the other thing I was thinking about. Like, do you ever maybe save your Terra for Ting Lu instead, right? Because by not tearing, knowing there's a Koraidon in the back, that's going to be a guaranteed knockout onto Ting Lu if you don't win that speed tie. And so crucial miss though, and this is one of the biggest downsides of Ting Lu. Its moves are not accurate. Like, every move that it's using can miss, and so crucially missing. Heat Wave comes out and is going to connect on both. Not the most amount of damage here.
Gets Astro Barrage first, so not getting locked or into the Encore, but doesn't get the knockout on either Pokemon here. They actually end up going for the Psychic, going to break the Sash.
Oh, it's not enough! That's huge! Oh, but it's Santum. Okay, into the Calyrex Shadow Rider. So I'm like, does this all just come down to a speed tie between the Calyrexes at the end of the day?
I guess so, because you need the Koraidon to be able to attack to finish off the Ting Lu, but you have the Calyrex on Aaron's end to do that, and there's no double protect option on Aaron's end.
Yep. Whoa.
It's all coming down to this 50-50 Aaron, I think. I don't know if there's any other way.
Boosters. I'm just trying to think, is there any way for either player to get around the speed tie, right? But I don't know. Like, it's not like another Sand Tomb.
Jay can protect the Koraidon, maybe, predicting that the Psychic would go into the
slot.
Koraidon.
That's right, yeah.
Then the Calyrex on Jay's end could go for, an attack to finish off.
But I think Aaron's always clicking Astro Barrage. Oh, is he actually, is the question, right? Is he going for Psychic instead? Yeah, okay, so this is it. Yeah, if it's Protect. Oh my gosh, it's not Protect, but it's Psychic. Psychic into the Shadow Rider. It gets the knockout, but it's just going to be Collision Course, and I think that should be it. Jay's going to move on to the finals.
Oh my god, it's like we had so much back and forth. Like, it felt like Jay just had it locked at one point, but it just turned into all this 50-50. Oh, Flame Charge. Okay,
but I think it's
probably
still
nothing that you can do to.
And the Santum miss, but wouldn't be enough anyway because you just faint to the Collision Course anyway.
Right.
I think he went for Flame Charge there, likely also targeting the Calyrex slot, I'm thinking. Or maybe he was saying, if you predict or protect the Calyrex, I Flame Charge you, then I guarantee outpace you next turn. But either way, this was a crazy semifinal.
Yeah, my head is still spinning. Yeah, everything that went on, but. Excellent adaptation from Jay's end, and congratulations to him to make it into the finals. Wow, that Chi-Yu bring in Game 4, Game 3, like, it was not maybe as impactful as we had anticipated, but like, it was still a big deal.